Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about ineffective bosses. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Hi Frederick, my team has complained to management about how ineffective our boss is at at their job, but nobody seems to be listening to us. What should we do? This is a tough one, and it's tough because I'm gonna have to. Well, there are bad solutions to this. I believe at the very least these are bad solutions where you try to undermine people and like this sort of stuff. I don't think that you should do that if you at all possible. Try to avoid this because it really like stabbing people in the back and doing like not being a team player is usually not the way to go, unless you, I don't know, you have some very, very strong reasons for behaving in that way. I don't think you should do that. I think that the healthy approach for you to think about this, and this takes a bit of conforming, basically. That is what I'm telling you. This is the thing that is very tricky. This for some software developers. I would even go as far as to say that I think that there are many freelancers and consultants or people, just anyone who has quit their job over a situation like this. I've seen developers who quit their job because the code base wasn't up to their standards or like the work was being done in a bad way or things like that. And this is the thing, guys. I hate to say this, but the people running running your company, they are free to run their company, well, within the confines of the law, of course, however they see fit. If they want to hire, it's the nephew problem, right? It's there's if your boss wants to hire his or her nephew and that person is completely incompetent or like doesn't know anything about it, they are unfortunately completely free to do so. And the only card you really have to play, like if you want to revolt against that, or you want to take issue with it, is to raise the issue, hope that they listen to you, and if that doesn't work, you can quit. That's the only thing you can really do. And so here I would say that you and your coworkers or like your team, you have to kind of talk to each other and think about, okay, so I mean, of course, you could all quit, but I'm not assuming now. I'm just assuming that you want to see if you can make this work, and this is going to take a fair bit of investment from you. And here's the dirtiest part of it: even if you do this, it might not work, and you might be that person who actually turns this whole thing around. And even if you did it, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get any compensation for it or you're going to get any credit for it. I've seen situations, I'm very sorry to say, where there has been a developer or two who has been such a positive influence to change things for the better, where they have really put in the effort. They have put their heart and soul into fixing an issue that was caused by a misalignment or like an ineffective person, like something that isn't really working within the company. And the only thing that the managers see is that, well, this team is now performing better. Like they don't get any credit for it. So you have to ask yourself, is this something that you want? Because I mean, I can only speak for myself. I would take on the challenge. I personally would do it, even if I knew that I would never get any credit for it, because it's something that is very fundamental to who I am. I want to do the right thing, even if there's no reward for it. Like, and here I think that the right thing for you to do is for your team is to have a discussion together and talk about like, organically elect a person or create a situation where you can come into a decision making process, because just because you have an ineffective boss, that doesn't mean that you can't bridge that, if that makes sense, because you are after all the programmers, you are after all the people who are producing the code, and you have, even if you have a manager gives or a boss that gives you a lot of rules, you still have some level of freedom on how you do your work. It's something that I said the other day to a person of mine, a friend of mine, or a neighbor actually, when we talked about democracy, and he stated that, well, you don't really have any control in democracy and I said, well, no, because in this case we were talking about a panel of decision makers who were making decisions on behalf of another group, and I said, no, you can't. You may not be able to directly influence them unless you're going to be corrupt, of course, but you can control the people. You can control the people that you put into that panel. In other words, if you want a really effective and good, well-working panel, if you elect the people who are going to sit on the seats, that is a level of influence. And you, as the software team, you have that as well. Even if you have a bunch of rules of how you have to do certain things, there are still things that are going to be undefined. An example would be, let's say that your manager is really ineffective at communicating specifications to you. Well, if that is the case, well, then what you can do is to go together and develop and look at a process for, okay, how can we bridge this? Because you need a clear specification, and if your manager isn't going to give you that, well, then maybe you can coach this individual, or maybe you can create some type of system for how to get a much better specification. Let's say that you feel that you have an issue with quality and software quality and testing and so forth. Well, if that is an issue and your manager doesn't really listen to you, then all you really have to do, and ideally you should be transparent about this, but all you really have to say is that, well, I need some extra time to work on this feature, and your manager is, for most intents and purposes, they're just going to take your word for it. That person doesn't know if you could have done this in 2 days less, and those extra 2 days that you estimated, they're actually to just write tests. Because they might have an issue with you if you say, oh, I need to do the testing as well. Then you're actually raising it. But if you're just saying it's going to take me this amount of time, and you're all in on it, it doesn't seem weird. It doesn't stand out in any way that you take a little bit longer, because everybody's taking a little bit longer. So you really need to come together here and try to work out solutions to bridge the ineffectiveness of this person. And I promise you, you can do this, and you will be surprised at how quickly you find that a well-working software team that is good in communication and have like constructive ways of dealing with issues together, you will be surprised at how little you need your manager to do things. Or like it's usually, in my experience at the very least, that the team can work pretty much completely autonomously without the manager, apart from, of course, getting specifications and so forth. Depends a little bit on the manager you have, of course, but in most cases that is very true. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you're dealing with an ineffective manager or a boss or someone who is causing problems for the team, I'm very sorry to say that the company that you work for, they can hire whoever they please. They could practically, again, this happens all the time. As a software developer, you're going to have to face something that is very harsh, and that is that you are going to in many cases, be an expert in the thing that you are working on, but you're going to get your direction and leadership or whatever from a person who doesn't know anything about the thing you do. They have no idea what you like, how it works with software development. They've never been a software developer. They don't know anything about it. There are no requirements on that person to be good at the thing that you are an expert in, which is going to create frustration and friction and so forth. And for you to fix that, well, either you have to work with the person that you've been given, or you can quit and complain and so forth. And if that's not an option, the best thing you can do is to go and talk to your software team, like talk to your people, and try to create a mutual trust, a bond between you and the others who are working there, and try yourself to like just either elect somebody or that speaks for you if they can be trusted, of course, or try to come up with your own initiatives for how to improve your process. Because as I said, you may think that your boss has final say on everything, but think about it. There are many things that in the daily job where they don't really have any control. They have to just trust that you know what you're doing, and you can always refine your own processes so that those processes actually bridge a lot of the problems that person might be introducing to the mix. And ideally, they will learn, like they will improve over time, and you can help them if you actually solve these sorts of if you figure out these sorts of internal processes. That's probably your best bet at this point. I would say so. Have a great day.